We start off in the women's strawweight division as Souza comes in at minus 285. She goes up against Carnelossi, who comes in at plus 245. Now, this is a rematch of a fight that took place back in May of 2019, and that night Carnelossi came up out on top, but since then, Souza has won the Invicta FC title. She made her way to the UFC, and now she is coming off of a victory over Bruna Brazil from earlier this year. That now brings her UFC record to 3-3, and I'm still trying to put my finger on what exactly she's great at, right? She seems a little undersized for the division, although it is the smallest division in the UFC women's rankings, or at least women's divisions, but she does throw with some decent power. It's also been pretty long. I believe it's been about 5 years since she has won by knockout, even though half of her 16 wins have come by knockout. You can obviously take into consideration when she dropped Yasmin Yaragui and then quickly followed up with a submission to get the tap that night. So she showcased her power that night. I'll give her that. But in the Bruna Brazil fight, we saw her get picked apart for round 1, and then rounds 2 and round 3 largely took place in the clinch, where Souza was able to nullify Brazil up against the fence and really just outwork her in those spots, and really didn't really face much resistance either. So that caused Brazil a ton of trouble, leading to Souza winning that fight on the scorecards. Now, she has a decent all-around game. Like I said, decent power in her hands. She can go out there and grapple if she needs to as well. She's obviously improved a whole lot since that loss to Carnelossi on the regional scene, but I don't believe she's going to be a fighter that finds herself in the title run, title contention. I know she's an Invicta FC champion, but the level of competition she was beating over there, not that high level either. Now, this weekend, she rematches Carnelossi, who is coming off of a submission loss to Talita Alencar last time around. Similar to her opponent this weekend, she is now 3-3 in the UFC, although her last win was a disqualification win against Piera Rodriguez in a fight where she was largely losing, right? That didn't seem like a fight she had much success in. Rodriguez was able to get the fight to the ground repeatedly, and it was ultimately 2 headbutts, or as the referee saw it, as intentional headbutts from Rodriguez to Carnelossi. And Carnelossi, similar to a fighter this a few weeks ago on the LFA card, we saw them kind of quit after they were clearly slowing down, clearly not having any success in their fight, and then Carnelossi pretty much just took the exit in that fight and took the DQ win. But we saw her fall short in her next fight as well against Talita Alencar, where she came in with a very bad game plan. Now, that was a fight where I took Carnelossi as a plus 180-ish underdog against Alencar, as I thought she would be able to utilize her strength to stop the takedowns of Alencar and then pick her apart on the feet with superior striking. And it was starting to look that way until she started to engage in the grappling and kept engaging in the grappling, allowing Alencar to get these dominant positions and eventually that submission in the 3rd round. So very poor fight IQ from Carnelossi to mix it up with the BJJ black belt. Now, Carnelossi is a black belt herself, so maybe she wanted to test her ego a little bit there and see what she could do against a high-level black belt with Alencar. But you saw in that fight, there are clear levels even to the black belt game, and Alencar was far ahead of Carnelossi that night. Carnelossi came into the UFC as like a little bit of a boogie woman in a sense, where, just looking at her physique and the fact she can go out there and knock opponents out, she was a very scary proposition for a lot of fighters, but Angela Hill was able to get her out of there by TKO in her debut, and she's really under-delivered throughout her UFC run thus far. Now, again, like I said, this is a rematch of a fight that took place back in May of 2019, where in the first round, Carnelossi seemed to hurt Souza with everything she was throwing and landing, and then in the second round, start to play out as more so of a tepid pace striking approach from both women. It was a very close round that probably could have gone either way. Third round was kind of playing out the same way until Carnelossi landed a perfect teep to the body of Souza, and we saw Souza just crumble to the ground and, writher in pain pretty much, as Carnelossi was able to get the TKO victory there. It's clear that both women have made improvements since that fight. Carnelossi is 3-3 since that fight. That win actually got her into the UFC, where Souza is now 8-5 since that fight. She's also 3-3 in the UFC as well. But I believe Souza is the one that's made a little bit more improvements. I think she's a little bit more durable now, so it'll be harder for Carnelossi to hurt her. And I think Souza can, really wear on Carnelossi, slow her down with the clinch, with the grappling, with her slicker striking approach. And as long as her durability is improved, as I believe it has, I think she should be able to to take the biggest shots from Carnelossi here and go on to win a very close decision. So I'm not in full agreement of that minus 285 line on Souza, but I think she'll do enough to get the win here by decision. I would want a much closer line. Like I was hoping for something closer to minus 185, even minus 150 on Souza. But again, I'm still going to take her as my prediction. I think she wins by decision.